In New York State, this fellow received enormous attention, not speaking out against the police, but speaking for the police. Take a look at this.
Everybody's trying to shame us. The legislators, the press, everybody's trying to shame us into being embarrassed about our profession. Well, you know what? This isn't stained by someone in Minneapolis. It's still got a shine on it. And so do theirs. So do theirs. Stop treating us like animals and thugs and start treating us with some respect.
You know, those remarks were trending across all of social media by the millions. Here's the fellow who garnered all of that attention, Mike Ramirez, the New York State Association of Police Benevolent Association president, joins us right now. Mike, that was spellbinding, and I know you were speaking from your heart, and whether people agree or disagree about whether the police have gone too far, certainly in the Minneapolis area, you pointed out something about basic numbers, that they're by far the exception and by far not the rule. Did you change any minds, you think?
Well, I hope I did, but you know what? I know that I spoke about things that every police officer, every good police officer in the United States of America was feeling, and it resonated with them. And, you know, like I've said it a number of times, you know, we for the vast majority of us, we conduct ourselves, we're honorable professionals. We conduct ourselves with integrity and compassion on a daily basis when we're dealing with the worst of humanity. And, you know, we're disgusted by Minneapolis, and it was a violation of Mr. Floyd, and we're horrified by it. So we understand there's a call for justice. We understand that, and there will be justice done in Minneapolis. However, the conversation has shifted so that now saying the word police is a four-letter word in the United States. It's not. Most of us, the vast majority of us, conduct ourselves with integrity and respect for our fellow citizens.
Clearly or not, Mike, there are a number of young African Americans in particular who don't think that's the case, who think that the police target them, or certainly are more inclined to go after them than they would a white person. What do you say to them?
You know what? I don't know what to say to them because I don't know. I understand because the media puts out there and pays a lot of attention to police misconduct, which they should. They should. But we have, like I said at the press conference yesterday, and I've said before, 375, which is a lowball number, 375 million contacts with the public every year in the United States of America. And 374 million and change, a lot of change, are positive. So is there bad cops? Of course there is. There's bad people in every walk of life. And those cops should be punished for their misdeeds. We agree with that. We don't want to protect bad cops, but most of us are good cops. And that is being lost in this conversation.
So let me get your sense of politicians who kind of are damned if they do, damned if they don't, wanting to rein in, obviously, the protests, particularly the violent ones, and at the same time acknowledge that certainly what happened in Minneapolis is sticking with a lot of people, and they're angry about it. But this push now to defund law enforcement, what do you think of that?
Well, I don't know what that means. I think again, it's a scare tactic. I don't know why we're scaring the American public. There's nothing to be scared about. We're going to put on our uniforms and go out and put our shields on and do what we do every day, and that's an honorable thing. And defunding is a very, very a nebulous word. So I don't know. Do they want social people or social people to go to people's houses when they have a domestic violence incident? They can try it, but I'm going to tell you something. They can defund, but the lowest possible denominator is always 911. And when you call 911, we're going to respond because that's what we do. And after they try these experiments with defunding, a couple of years later, they're going to be refunding because there's going to be mayhem.
There's pressure building on Capitol Hill to do something, as you know. And among the ideas is changing police procedures, outlawing chokeholds, that sort of thing. Where are you on all that?
You know what? Where they just passed a law in New York to ban chokeholds. Nobody's in favor of anybody choking anybody to death. It's almost a ridiculous question, but that's why you asked me. Nobody else is asking me. Of course, people like Derek Chauvin should be held accountable. We're saying that. We're saying it to anybody that'll listen to us. We're not in favor of people being choked to death by anybody, especially a cop, because those are, that's our profession. So am I against people being choked to death? Yes. Am I afraid that legislators will legislate with emotion instead of reason and make chokeholds worse than a gun? I think that's a problem, because if I'm fighting for my life, I might have to, all bets are off. I'm doing anything I can to save my life. I shouldn't use a chokehold when someone is restrained, but when I'm in the fight of my life, I got to do what I got to do. And that's the issues that we're coming up as police officers that we need to watch out for.
Mike, I know a lot of policemen and women, a lot of retired policemen and women who told me, to a man and a woman, I don't know if I'd ever want back in that business. And a couple of the kids who were looking to become cops themselves. And he said, I don't know if I want my son or daughter to do this in this environment. Are you surprised?
Absolutely not. I mean, we've had these conversations, police officers having these conversations on a daily basis in this whole country. But that's why maybe my press conference, and maybe when if you would have told me yesterday morning, I would have been talking to Neil Cavuto on national TV. I would have told you he was smoking a substance. But that is the conversation we have to have. We have to say that every single person that you interview on either side of this issue always says 99.9% of the cops are good, honorable people. We can't legislate to make 100% of the cops evil. We're just losing. Something's getting lost in the wash. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I know all kinds of different police professionals and PBAs all over the place. We want to be part of the discussion. We want to understand the emotion of the black community. And we want to say, we want to help. We want to help allay that fear. We want a community where everybody can live and prosper together. I'm dead serious. That's what police think. And the media, for the most part, and a lot of the people that are getting the mics put in front of them are telling a different story. That's not the story. Most of us, the vast majority of us, are good, hardworking people. We're your neighbors and your friends. And you know what? That's what I need to say. That's why I'm on your show talking today.
No, I'm very glad you are. You made such an impact on social media, what have you. That might be any one of a number of news shows calling you now. I wonder how some of your minority cops feel about this, the African-American ones, Hispanic, some of the others. There's been a great increase in a diverse police force across the country. And I'm wondering how they feel when they're hearing this, and they're racist or that they target African-Americans. How are they dealing with this?
Well, I'll tell you a story. Yesterday, after that news conference, the first person that came up to me was an African-American police officer in uniform, and he hugged me, and he said, "Thank you for saying what I'm feeling." That was the first person that walked up to me. So I don't know what everybody thinks. I don't know. I don't speak to everybody. Everybody has their right to their own opinion. But I know that was the first person that walked up and hugged me after that press conference yesterday.
Well, I think there are a lot of people doing that virtually as well once they heard your remarks, Mike. You're a very passionate fellow, and that came through loud and clear. Mike, thank you very, very much.
Thanks, man.